look at this gigantic roster of 182 characters. I'm pretty sure that's the number for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. How could anyone demand more characters of this game when there is 182 individual characters? Well, the thing is, a lot of these characters have repeated skills and attacks that pretty much boil down to just a beam or rush attack for their techniques. Really, where a lot of the uniqueness comes is their ultimate attacks, but because the gameplay is so similar between every character, that's what makes it so, I don't want to say easy, but a lot easier than something like FighterZ for them to make different characters in this game and able to rack it up to 182. Not to mention that there are some repeated characters that are similar, but just have different skills or techniques. For example, Piccolo here and Piccolo fused with Kami are identical in terms of the looks. They could reuse animations. They even share some moves, but they're different characters just because they take place in different parts of the timeline and therefore have different ultimates and different specials. In fact, if they wanted to, they could add to this by having a Piccolo fused with Nail as a different character from Piccolo fused with Kami or base Piccolo. But if we look through this roster, we can see a lot of Dragon Ball Z characters. We go further down, we see a lot of Dragon Ball Super characters. Even we have Dragon Ball GT characters, Dragon Ball movie characters. It seems like the only thing that's really missing is original Dragon Ball characters. Because when we think about it, that's not Goku, that's Goten. When we think about it, we have Team Goku from around the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament. We have Master Roshi, who could be argued to represent Z and more likely Super, because he fights during the Frieza saga in Super, the Resurrection F saga, I should say, and the Tournament of Power. But you could still argue that nothing he does here is not in Dragon Ball. So you could 100% say these are Dragon Ball. The Master Roshi's both forms are Dragon Ball characters in this game. And adding on to that, we have Krillin, who you could argue is 23rd Martial Arts Tournament Krillin, except he has a Destructo Disc and Spread Energy Wave, which he did not have in the original Dragon Ball, as well as Solar Flare. We have Yamcha, who you could argue as a Dragon Ball character because he doesn't use any techniques that he didn't have in Dragon Ball, but Sphere Ball was right at the end of Dragon Ball. And he doesn't use the sword he had in the original Dragon Ball. And then we have Tien, who just has a lot missing from his moveset that was in Dragon Ball. I haven't seen him use multiple arms. He doesn't have certain costumes from like his earliest appearances in Dragon Ball. He doesn't have any costume with the hat. He doesn't have any multi-forms or any cloning of himself or whatever you want to call that. So Tien here is pretty much just a Dragon Ball Z iteration of Tien. Like with Tri-Beam and Neo Tri-Beam, he feels like a Cell Saga Tien or a Super Tien, which his base outfit is. So this is kind of not even a Dragon Ball character. This is a Dragon Ball Z character. So that's what, 3-4 characters out of 182 that could be argued to be just representing Dragon Ball. And I think that's a little unfair for the series that started it all. I mean, that's the first half of the entire series that started this, from the Pilaf saga to the Buu saga. That was the original series, and the original Dragon Ball was half of that. So I think we should look through this roster and think who we should add from the original Dragon Ball. So I will be going through some Dragon Ball fights just in the background as we do this. And the first obvious character is Kid Goku. And you might be saying, what are you talking about? This is Kid Goku. I'm looking at him right now. But no, you can see this is specifically Teen Goku. So Teen Goku is Goku from around the time where he fought Tien in the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament. What I'm looking for is Kid Goku from... I mean, this dialogue is proof that this is the Yamcha, or Super Yamcha. But yeah, basically, what I'm looking for is more like 21st World Martial Arts Tournament, Emperor Pilaf Goku, Red Ribbon Army Goku. You know, the original Kid Goku has a lot to pull from, and he is the first character, and I have around 30 characters that I have in mind just from Dragon Ball that could be added to this game. So the thing with Kid Goku is that he would not have the ultimate that this Goku has, where he summons the Ozaru's power. Instead, I would have, it might be a Kamehameha that's the ultimate, and him having 2 rush attacks instead. Another big difference, I would say, is that Kid Goku should have a transformation where he goes Great Ape Goku, because when he was in the Pilaf Saga, he went Great Ape. And when he was in the 21st Martial Arts Tournament, he went Great Ape. Teen Goku never went Great Ape. So that's why you could argue there is no Great Ape Goku in this game. But if we bring... If we bring Kid Goku, then we could have Great Ape Goku, and he could just use his Great Ape moves, just like was in BT3. And not only that, I think it would be best to not leave it there for Goku. I mean, there's like a bunch of Gokus in this game. We could all see that. But I think we could stand for Kid Goku and one more Goku. I think we should get a Goku that looks a little like this. Not an early Z Goku, but a late Dragon Ball Goku. So I think Goku from the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament, where he fought Piccolo Jr., could be his own character, because, you know, that Goku, he doesn't know Kaioken, he doesn't know the Spirit Bomb. I don't think he used the Solar Flare in that fight. Basically, he can have a completely different moveset, kind of an in-between between Teen Goku and Z early Goku, which is why I think that should be the third Goku. You can also have unique interactions with Piccolo, for example. Have Piccolo be... or a lot of the characters, because he's just in a different place. A lot of the interactions are for characters that I have yet to mention, so let's move on to maybe the most controversial character I have, which is Bulma. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you watch the Dragon Ball Path to Power movie, she was in a helicopter throwing rockets and just killing people all around. Bulma is kind of funnily violent. Like, she shot at Goku the first time she saw him. So I actually think Bulma could be given a very fun moveset, just filled with all the devices we've seen her have. She can obviously ride some sort of bike or something of the sort. You know, we could have some capsule technology in attacks and have some very funny animations of her running and stuff. And remember, not everyone needs to be super strong to be in this game. We have Mr. Satan. You know, that's a very cute line for Master Roshi there, but you know, we shouldn't limit ourselves to what's in this game when we know they could do more silly characters like Mr. Satan, and not to mention, like, they have a lot of characters that are in BT3 that explored the limits of what they could do. And something that may seem unnecessary to some of you, because we already have Yamcha in the game, I think we should have a different Yamcha in the game to represent his days as a thief. So I think we should have a Yamcha that's, you know, dressed like the alternate costume he has in this game of his original appearance. But I think I think it should be his own character as well. So a character that maybe has Puar as part of his moveset, transforming to kind of mess with the opponents. And I think Yamcha should have his sword as part of his attacks. And with that, so for example, like his smash attacks would be using his sword, and his swords can come in through his rush attacks. His spirit ball would not be there, first of all, so that'd be different. I think his ultimate would be great as like a Wolfang Fist, because the animation of his original Wolfang Fist was pretty great. And I think they could really focus on that with it as an ultimate, as a pre-Yamcha, pre-Z Yamcha. Another character that's technically already in the game, but could go with another form, is Krillin, but as a kid. So I think Kid Krillin should 100% be in this game, because the amount of tactics he used in his early battles are they're true to his character, because we can see him use a lot of tactics like that later on in Z, because that's just Krillin's character. But he did the same thing in the original Dragon Ball, and he has different outfits. That original outfit would be great in this game. But Krillin's tactics, like when he blew himself up as a balloon to avoid getting hit, these are more silly animations, more fun gameplay mechanics they could put in. Not to mention, Goku versus Krillin from the, I believe, 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament it's probably my favorite fight in the whole series, just because the relationship we can see, it's wonderful, and I think that is enough to deserve Kid Krillin as a character. I mean, he was Goku's rival before Tien, which he was the first ever rival turned friend from Goku. You could argue Yamcha was that, but Yamcha was more just an antagonist than a rival. And someone introduced along with Kid Krillin, who might also be controversial because some people don't see it as something that should be here, is I think Launch should also be in the game. So not just Bulma, I think Launch should be in the game as well. And I would argue Launch is a lot easier than Bulma, because Launch is willing to scrap. She'll throw hands, and not to mention the amount of attacks you can just give her using different guns. There's no limits when it comes to guns. She's used rockets, she used pistols, she used machine guns. There's literally no limit you have to adhere to. So Launch should be a very fun, easy character. Not to mention the intro of her sneezing and turning into Bad Launch it writes itself. It seems to me that Launch would be a landslide in this kind of game. She'd be very fun. I think Launch should be in here. And another character I think should be in this game. This is probably the one I'm least excited for out of all the ones I've said so far, but I still feel like he should be in here. I think the Ox King should be in this game, just because he is pretty important in this series, right? He's Gohan's granddad, Goten's great-granddad. He's trained under Master Roshi alongside Grandpa Gohan. He's literally very important to Goku. I mean, he's like a grunkle. He's like a grunkle to Goku, and he had a high power level. He was a power level 900 when Goku was power levels 15 or something, which those numbers are probably a little bit off, but he was the strongest in Dragon Ball for a long time. And not to mention, he trained Chi-Chi to be pretty strong by that 23rd martial arts tournament, and it's pretty easy to think of attacks for him. I mean, he has a giant axe and he's huge. You can think of a bunch of attacks with that. So I think Ox King would make a pretty good character, and he'd have some good interactions with Goku, Chi-Chi, Goten, Gohan, Master Roshi. It builds itself for me in Ox King. Not to mention, he has a multitude of outfits, surprisingly, that he could wear. I mean, the original, and then he could, be great-granddad Ox King we see later. But yeah, speaking of Ox King, his kid, Chi-Chi, I see no reason why Chi-Chi would... I don't know why she's not already in the game, to be honest. I mean, I think we'll start with Kid Chi-Chi, right? So that original appearance where she throws her blades around, that is... that was in BT3, right? So a lot of the characters I've stated are not in BT3. I don't think any of the characters I said, other than Kid Goku and Grade 8 Goku, are in BT3. But Kid Chi-Chi is already in BT3, which means they don't have to make a lot of stuff up. They have an incarnation of her to use as a guide, and just the gimmick of her throwing the attack from her head, that's a trope in Japanese media. That's something they could pull a lot from, just from different Sentai shows and all. And Kid Chi-Chi is one of the most important meetings in Goku's life, because it leads to who he wifes up. So we should also include just adult Chi-Chi, who was also in BT3, I'm pretty sure, in her 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament design. And that is also one that seems pretty... a layup, you can cut... It's martial arts focused moveset for Chi-Chi, and that is something that I think is pretty easily done in regards to Chi-Chi, because once again, BT3 copy and paste, And Chi-Chi has multiple outfits. She's very important. So she'd have different interactions with everyone. You already know. Like, imagine Chi-Chi interacting with future Gohan. Chi-Chi interacting with any Super Saiyan form for anyone, pretty much. Interacting with Super Saiyan 4 Goku just in the intro stuff. It'd be fun. And Chi-Chi is important enough that it feels like she's missing in this game. Like, even if Kid Chi-Chi isn't included, they should definitely have adult Chi-Chi, because her versus Goku is one of the most important fights in the series, because that sets up Goku's whole life. And someone of lesser importance is someone from the World Martial Arts Tournament, and that is Nam. So Nam was in BT3, and he is the Middle Eastern looking man who wanted to earn money from winning the World Martial Arts Tournament in order to give his village water. And you could argue how well that aged, but regardless of what you think, that character was important at the time he was released. And you know, the idea of making him like this strong fighter, he was the first one to like have them jump super high into the air and come down with attacks.
Goku, I can hardly believe it's you.
So I think, and Nam was in BT3, so it seems pretty easy to put him in here. He's honestly memorable to me. Like, I remember feeling for him and wishing he won, but then the happy ending when Jackie Chun gives him basically gives him the water he needs for his tribe, and it's a happy ending. And I don't know if it's filler, but he kind of comes back later in a small way. So it's not like he's a one and done exactly. And that I like Nam as a character, so I kind of want him to be in this game. I would use him, I like him in BT3, and I'd like him in this one. And he's like one of the most important. He's probably like one of the only World Martial Arts Tournament characters that's just World Martial Arts. He's probably one of the best ones, right? Because you wouldn't put like King Chopper or Pamput in this game, right? Because they're kind of there to get beaten. But Nam actually like puts up a fight. Like he flies into the air and he does well. And he has like a whole, backstory and motivation, more than just I'm a former champion, or I want to win because I want to prove myself the strongest. So I would say Nam is probably the best one to put in this game. And someone from another tournament who acts as kind of a main antagonist of the whole arc is Spike the Devilman, or just Devilman, right? So Spike the Devilman, well, I think that's just his dub name, so I'm just going to call him Devilman. He was in BT3, and he had a great gimmick that pretty much everyone loves. Like, you'll see videos about it, how his ultimate does different damage depending on how much evil is in your heart. Well, that is pretty brilliant to me, and his fight is pretty fun, because I think the moment where he tries to kill Goku with that attack, and Goku's just unharmed, is a very brilliant and memorable moment, and that is the ending of the whole Fortune Teller Baba arc. But even though I do want Devilman in there, there's a bigger deal there that I want in there, and that is Grandpa Gohan, who was in BT3 and is obviously very important to the whole series. He raised Goku. He was one of Roshi's students. He's what connects Goku to martial arts. What makes Goku... The reason Goku likes fighting is not because he's a Saiyan. I mean, maybe that's what makes him like winning, but what makes him like fighting is that he had Grandpa Gohan as a martial artist father who taught him martial arts as a thing for fun and a way of self-improvement. And then Roshi would, as Gohan's teacher, was able to teach Goku more about that as well. So Gohan is incredibly important, and he's already in BT3. He has techniques, he has abilities, he's a great martial artist. He has everything you need to be in the game, as proven by him being in BT3. And I don't think anyone's going to argue that Grandpa Gohan should be in the game. So I'm just going to move on straight from that. And I'm going to go... Android 8 should also be in this game. Now, Android 8 is... If you haven't seen the original Dragon Ball, Android 8 is pretty much the original Android 16. So... His personality... He's an extreme pacifist, pretty much. Who is one of the original Red Ribbon androids. But he didn't want to have to kill Goku. Like, he fought him at first, but he was like, man, I do not want to do this. And he is such a memorable friend for Goku, who was only nice. It has a very like cute design. Like he's literally like Frankenstein, but it's a very cute Frankenstein, which is like, you know, Toriyama's like the GOAT for being able to make that cute. But seeing their interactions is very adorable. And it would be great to have him back. And he was in BT3, so I think it'd be pretty easy. And he's like great, you know, foreshadowing or a great hint for the Android saga. That's, hey, oh wow, Goku just mentioned Ader in the dialogue. So yeah, twice as big. Ader's pretty big compared to Goku, but you know, 16 is literally like twice Ader. Like that's why 16 is like a pacifist. It's a reference to Ader. So 16 is kind of like, if you don't know about 16, he's almost if you don't know about 8, you know, 16 is kind of almost incomplete as a character, because a lot of people these days knows about, you know, 16 being Gevo, but not everyone knows that 16 is kind of also based on Android 8. So Android 8 adds a lot. So I think Android 8 should definitely be in the game, just like he was in BT3. And another character from the same saga who was in BT3 is General Blue, who was kind of like one of the first major antagonists that pretty much like challenged Goku, and you know, who he was like seemingly stronger than Krillin. He was able to beat Krillin and become like a challenge for Goku specifically. And he was one of the first villains to be like that, to be like a real threat. And what was crazy is he was really setting up future villains, because he was a soldier for the Red Ribbon Army. It's not like he was the leader, but he still had his own personality, right? He was like the prim and proper one, but like a little bit flamboyant. And like, yeah, it was kind of a stereotype, but we don't have to include the negative repercussions of the stereotype in this, you know, fan cast, you know. And he was in BT3, and I think that's pretty cool that he was in BT3, because he's such a memorable character. You know, it felt like he was the main villain for a lot of the Red Ribbon saga, which is one of the most, you know, popular sagas in the whole franchise. And you know, the person who helped Goku beat General Blue, because Goku didn't actually beat him on his own. Goku had help, and that help was technically not a Dragon Ball character. That help was Arale. Yes, Arale from Dr. Slump, who was in BT3, is canon to Dragon Ball, and she helped Goku beat General Blue. And therefore, Arale should be in the game. I mean, she's important to the story. It's in one of the movies, she helps Goku beat Mercenary Tao as well. And so, I don't think anyone is going to argue that Arale isn't a fit. But speaking of General Tao, Mercenary Tao is obviously someone who should be in this game, because he was in BT3, I'm pretty sure. And he's iconic. Like, you take everything I said about General Blue being the first major villain, well, Mercenary Tao ups that. He literally, like, spoilers for the original Dragon Ball, but he kills General Blue with his tongue, and it's just proof of the pure power. It's the first like real power scaling moment where you see just how much stronger the competition gets, and that makes Mercenary Tao a big deal. I mean, and he's related to Tien and the Crane School, which is very important stuff going on there. And not only should Tao go, you know, who has a bunch of techniques you can use, who has martial arts mastery, who has, you know, all the Crane School techniques, help teach Tien, help teach Shiatsu. You can definitely have Tao there, and then after that, you can have Mercenary, or you could have Cyborg Tao from the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament, you know, the one that gave Tien his scar on his chest. And I think that's a pretty, I guess Chiaotzu counts as a Dragon Ball character. I didn't count him earlier, but I did say 3 or 4, so whatever. So Cyborg Tao should also be, because that's like such an easy addition. I'm pretty sure Cyborg Tao was also in BT3. Like, I think it was Mercenary Tao and Cyborg Tao. And it feels like Cyborg Tao was kind of like good. Like, I like that Cyborg Tao shows up. Like, people say, oh, you know, he pretty much lost immediately after coming back as a cyborg. Which is, yeah, but Cyborg Frieza's in this game. The same thing happened with him. But Cyborg Tao, I would argue, is like, he served a plot function just like Cyborg Frieza did, to show how strong Trunks was. Cyborg Tao existed to show... Cyborg Tao showed up to give Tien a physical scar, kind of representing his past as in the Crane School as kind of a bad guy. So I think Cyborg Tao is important enough that he should be in the game, just like Mercenary Tao. And but even though Mercenary Tao kind of felt like the strongest in the Red Ribbon, he wasn't actually the final boss of Red Ribbon, right? That was Staff Officer Black, who kind of stood up to Red and took a battle machine and just went toe-to-toe with Goku. And it was a fun fight. And it might not be as memorable as Tao, but that was still the final boss of Red Ribbon, which was like a huge arc. And obviously an arc that had repercussions for sagas and sagas. So, up to this day, the most recent saga was Superhero Saga. And that was all about Red Ribbon. So I think a robot that is kind of Officer Black, but maybe could have alternate costumes that could just make it like a generic robot, kind of to represent all the big robots, they fought in throughout the years, like the pirate robot, just or just a generic Red Ribbon robot. But for the base, I think we should have Staff Officer Black's like Red Ribbon Machine as its own fighter. And you guys may think that's too similar to the Pilaf Machine, which was in BT3, but I think let's put the Pilaf Machine in there too. I think the Pilaf Machine could be pretty good for the game as it was in BT3. And Pilaf is obviously super relevant in Dragon Ball Super. Like, he's literally there. And so are Mai and Shu. So not only do I think the Pilaf Machine should come back, I think the Pilaf Machine combined with Mai and Shu, right? They should come back as well. Because they're just so relevant, and there's even a line in one of the menus where they talk about the Pilaf Machine and how they're rebuilding it. I think it'd be very easy to add the Pilaf Machine and combine Pilaf Machine into the roster. Like, I'm surprised it's not here by default when Pilaf is just there all the time in Super. And it was a pretty major boss battle, pretty memorable, all of them in their robots. And yeah, and then after that, we get into the Piccolo saga. So the thing with the Piccolo saga is we are introduced to a lot of mechanics of the world, a lot of lore, a lot of characters we haven't seen before, a lot of characters that have only been mentioned before. And the first one I want to add to the game is one that a lot of people don't even know about, and that's Master Mutaito. So Master Mutaito is a figure that isn't seen much. Mutaito is the master of Master Roshi and the Crane Hermit. So that means he is the one who taught Roshi how to control ki. And we actually, in the anime, there's an episode where he meets with Master Mutaito in the past, where he meets young Roshi and Rangshen, and Mutaito teaches Goku to control ki even more. So, like, even though Roshi is the one that came up with the Kamehameha, Mutaito is the one who taught him how to control ki in a way that he could make ki beams. So Mutaito could reasonably have ki attacks. It's not like that limits him. He can use ki attacks. Mutaito also was strong enough to teach, Goku, who was King Piccolo Saga level, able to have Goku learn things from him, learn about ki from him. So I think Mutaito, you can come up with the moveset, combining things from Grandpa Gohan, from Roshi, even from the Ox King. He has great ki control. From that filler anime episode, he's the one that invented the evil containment wave, and he died using it against King Piccolo. And that is easily an ult-hit right there. He's the original evil containment wave user, something that nowadays, like, I think Trunks even was using, Goku was using, Tien used it against Piccolo. Like, I think in Sparking Zero, there's a what if where Gohan uses it too. But, that's just an example of the lineage of Mutaito. Like, he's vastly important. He trained Roshi, who trained Goku, who trained Gohan. Like, the lineage goes on and on. But the first big antagonist, like, that's a protagonist right there. The first big antagonist is Tambourine, who was in BT3. He makes a major impact in BT3 because, well, not BT3, in the King Piccolo saga, because he up and kills one of the main characters and causes Goku to go on this journey. And this is the first time Goku has, like, someone who's close to him die, right? So he has Upa, right? He has Upa's dad, Bora, who gets killed, and he wants to go on a journey. But that's not him dealing with the loss, right? He didn't know Bora that well. But the Krillin was his best friend, and this is the first time we see like a wrathful Goku looking for justice, and that does not end the whole arc. Like, it's a pretty serious arc because he's seeking vengeance for Krillin and wants to bring Krillin back, and it's a sad, mournful, angry Goku, and that goes and it's all because of Tambourine, and Tambourine is a tough fighter. Like, he kills Krillin in pretty much like one hit. Goku has to go through a massive power up to beat Tambourine. He has to go through training. He finds Yajirobe and all that. And Tambourine is the one that did it. He even makes like a cameo appearance in Super as like Krillin has to overcome his trauma by beating him. So he has a little bit of relevance. Like, I know that's like just anime and was in the manga, but he's still relevant in the consequences of his actions. But even bigger deal, King Piccolo. He should definitely be in this game. It's King Piccolo. So I think both King Piccolo and Tambourine should be in this game. And you could argue, like, oh, what about the other minions? What about, like, Drum? And I'm like, I don't think they're as important as Tambourine. I think Tambourine and Piccolo are the main ones you want. And I don't think we need an old King Piccolo and a young King Piccolo. I think just King Piccolo revive should be enough. Not revive, but, like, eternal youth King Piccolo should be enough. And it's kind of weird he isn't in this game because he is in BT3. He is, a lot of people put him in the lineage of like, oh, it's King Piccolo, Frieza, Vegeta. Well, that's the wrong order, but like they put him as a major arc villain, and a lot of people will go back and not even watch all of Dragon Ball. They'll just watch from the King Piccolo saga onward because it kind of fits in with Z, just as much as it does Dragon Ball. I mean, King Piccolo represents such a turning point in the series. He has to be there, And the other side to King Piccolo, who is super important, obviously, to the arc and like to the series as a whole, is Kami, or in Japan, just God. So Kami is, half of Piccolo, and he's literally a god. Like, he's the inventor of the Dragon Balls. He's major, and he trains Goku, and he fights in the world tournament. He is able to beat Yamcha in the world tournament, and he's able to move on only to lose to Piccolo. But that's a pretty major feat, and he's also pretty important in the Dead Zone movie, which is funny because one of the characters here is Garlic Jr., whose whole story is that he was kind of contending with Kami to become Guardian of Earth. So it's kind of weird to have Garlic Jr. and not Kami when their stories are so interlinked. But I think Kami should be in the game because he's just so relevant, and pretty easy techniques he has because he has, all the techniques from when he was Hero in the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament. He has the techniques from the Garlic Jr. movie. He has techniques to use it when training Goku. Kami is just so important. I feel like he should be in this game. I mean, he's very relevant, obviously, when Goku fuses with him in the Android Saga, in the Cell Saga. So he definitely should be in the game. And maybe a little bit controversially, I also think his assistant, Mr. Popo, should be in the game, because Goku trained with Mr. Popo arguably more than he trained with Kami. Mr. Popo is actually like a pretty strong fighter for his own right, and he stays in the series. Like, you could argue his impact is longer in the series because he becomes Dende's assistant, after Kami fuses with Piccolo. So Mr. Popo is still just like a character that's around all the time, and has some bit of strength that we see because he was stronger than Goku after Goku beat King Piccolo. So Mr. Popo is probably, you could say he's probably not as strong as Kami, but being stronger than Goku at the time is a pretty big deal, being able to train Goku. And I think his training is more physical, right? So I'm not saying Korin should be in the game, even though he's probably stronger than Goku, because Korin doesn't really fight, right? Just because you're strong enough to be able to, avoid attacks and strong enough to, utilize kind of godly instincts does not mean you're a fighter. So I don't think Korin is a fighter, but I think Mr. Popo can do that as a fighter because of the way we see him train with Goku. He goes one-on-one with Goku, and he makes that little doll of Goku. And, you could say a lot of that was filler, but, like, there's literally filler characters in this game, like all the movies are obviously filler, and they're in the game. And, God of Destruction Topo was not in the manga. That's filler, you know. You could argue Jiren Full Power is kind of a filler character. He does not need that, you know. But that's why I think Mr. Popo should be in there. I mean, remember what that... Isn't he the one that, like, led them to Namekian spaceship, that led them to even going to Namek? Like, he's important throughout all of the series. And that's why I think he should be a playable character. But, you know, after that, we get to the last arc of the whole series. You know, we get to the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament. And in the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament, that's the dawn of Piccolo Jr. And I think Piccolo Jr. should definitely be his own character in this game. Piccolo Jr. is a big turning point in the series, right? Because he's probably the most... He's the most in-depth a villain ever gets, right? Because you could say Tien obviously has a lot of depth to him. But he was probably always meant to turn into a rival. I think he was never meant to just stay a villain. But Piccolo is the first one that starts as a major villain. And you can see an ounce of sympathy in him that wasn't there before. You know, in King Piccolo, he was pure evil. But Piccolo Jr., we get to see a lot more redeeming side to him. He wants a family. He wants to battle. Like, you could say, like, he's just trying to prove himself to the only family he has. But that family is gone. So he's jealous of family. And that's why he, you know, is okay seeking revenge against the world. But there's also that point where he protects, you know, right before the tournament, he protects, like, the family that is about to be attacked. So this Piccolo is good-natured, but he's just doing what he thinks he has to for the only family he knows existed. Like, this Piccolo also uses, like, pretty much all techniques that is not in Dragon Ball Z Piccolo. Like, this Piccolo does not have special beam cannon, doesn't have Hell Zone grenade, doesn't have light grenade, right? So this Piccolo uses all unique techniques pretty much, and that's why, like, it's good enough. He should be his own character, you know, separate from early Z Piccolo. You know, early Z Piccolo is probably more like Nail Piccolo than anything. Like, I know it's meant to represent you know, probably like Raditz fight Piccolo. But he does have the special beam cannon. And he doesn't have, like, a lot of the techniques he uses against Goku in that 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament. Which is why I think, like, BT3 was right to have Piccolo Jr. kind of as its own character to represent that fight. You know, that iconic fight that ended the original Dragon Ball series, you know? Like, that was the last fight before Z. And it made Piccolo Jr. such an established character in just one arc, right? Like, that set up Piccolo going from a villain to a rival to saving Gohan and then sacrificing himself in Gohan. That's like a 4-act structure that was beautifully set up in such short time with the brilliance of the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament. So Piccolo Jr. should definitely be there. And I don't know whether I would rather have this as an ultimate or an other form, but I think you gotta have Giant Piccolo, because Piccolo goes giant in that fight and he turns huge. So the question is, like, do we put that as a different character, or do we put that as like an ultimate where he does it real quick? And I don't know what I'd put for that. I think I would probably rather have it as a giant character, because I feel like we could use giant characters. We have Giant Lord Slug, so I feel like we should have Giant Piccolo too. And I think just being giant, like, you know, gives him enough differences that it could be its own character. And, you know, that is a pretty significant portion of the fight, you know. We see flashbacks to it, like, he does it again when he's Orange Piccolo. And I think 100% Orange Piccolo is going to he's going to have his own giant character. So I think having Piccolo Jr. as, like, his own giant character would also be pretty cool. Yeah. So I think Piccolo Jr., Giant Piccolo, you know, Giant Piccolo was not in BT3, but I think we could make one for Sparking Zero. And especially, you know, with the it coming back in the form of Orange Piccolo going giant, it'd make a lot of sense to bring it back. But finally, I have my last character here. My last character from the original Dragon Ball that I want added. And you may be wondering, like, who could it even be? You know, because think about the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament, right? Everyone you know, Yajirobe is pretty much like, he's pretty much perfect in this game for original Dragon Ball. You know, Chi-Chi from that is in the game. Yamcha, I already said Kami. I said Tien. You know, I already said that Tien should get his own. You know, I already said Tien should get his own iteration for original Dragon Ball because of the multitude of techniques he has. I think Chiaotzu's good as it is, but I think Tien could really use a younger Tien. So it's like you might be thinking, who's left? And that's this is the last one. It might be controversial. So in the anime, after the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament, you know, everyone knows that, oh, that's the end of Dragon Ball, and then it goes straight to Z. But in the anime, there's actually a complete like 5-episode arc that is not in the manga. That is just a journey between Goku and Chi-Chi, and it is, you know, to say it nicely, it is a very adorable arc, you know, of just Goku and Chi-Chi being able to hang out, fight together, and, you know, Goku actually gets to reunite with Grandpa Gohan. Grandpa Gohan gets to, like, meet and approve of Chi-Chi, which is, you know, obviously pretty nice. And, you know, that's also more stuff to pull for Grandpa Gohan. He kind of becomes like a kind of warrior of, you know, the other world. It's pretty cute. And, you know, that's more to bring for Grandpa Gohan, right? But Grandpa Gohan isn't the only character, you know, from that arc that I want to include. And that's Annin. So Annin is a character they meet in there who is from the other world, who works with Yenma to basically control, like, the flames of hell. Which I know that sounds badass, but she is pretty much like a knight who seems on par with Goku, right? Like, maybe not as strong as Goku, because Goku's strong as hell, but she is able to fight with Goku, you know, and she's even able to turn giant. And she has, you know, this, you know, the wind fan, which is kind of big for that arc. I think it shows up in, like, some one of the mobile games, too, with, like, Goku and Chi-Chi using it. And I think that Annin would make, like, a great character because she has a really good design. Like, Annin's design is really cool for a martial artist who is in Otherworld, you know, with Grandpa Gohan, making sure, like, the hells of the Otherworld don't, you know, cross over into the Earth. Like, it's a very interesting, you know, deity, a very interesting character to have. I think Otherworld has a lot of that. And I think Annin is a great example of that. And, you know, using her, she has a weapon and she knows martial arts and she could turn giant and she has the wind fan. So I think probably her giant form, you know, with Piccolo Jr., I lean towards giant form being a separate character. But with Annin, I lean more towards the fire form being, the giant form being an ultimate instead. But I could be convinced otherwise because I do think that Annin is a very cool character who has a lot of potential and is kind of unexplored. Like, I know she's filler, but, like, you know, so is Pikkon. And they did a lot with Pikkon. And I think Annin is someone they could do a lot with. So, all in all, I think, yeah, that's pretty much it for all the original Dragon Ball characters. And, of course, I'm probably missing a lot because, well, maybe not a lot. I've listed a lot. But I probably missed some that I think about. And I'm like, maybe they should be in this game. Like, I know some people think Bora should be in the game, you know, which, you know, I don't think he's major enough to be in the game. I know he's pretty good in the movie he's in the, I think it's the second, or no, it's the third movie, the one where Chiatsu's like an emperor. I think Bora, like, fights Yamcha in that movie and wins or something. Yeah, so I know Bora has had, like, some showcases and, you know, he has a spear and stuff, but, you know, I don't know if he really needs to be in this game. I don't know if anyone's going to be maining him or anything. I don't know if his design or his characters is enough to get him in this game, but I'm not, like, against the idea. Like, I wouldn't be mad. And, you know, I've also seen people say, oh, what about, like, a generic martial artist to act as like a fill-in for, like, Pamput or King Champa. And it's like, I'm not like against the idea, but I also don't think it's necessary because, like, you know, I Frieza Force Soldier kind of isn't necessary in this game either because we have Kui and I think there was Apul too in BT3, so I don't even think Frieza Force Soldier was necessary. Like, I'm not gonna hate against it, right? I think it's funny, but It wouldn't be on my list, but if it's on your list, I'm not hating it. I understand. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everyone I could think of from the original Dragon Ball that I have. I have it all listed down here. And I can't think of anyone else that I feel like is truly missing. So with that, I think, yeah, we're done with this. And I think next video is definitely going to be Dragon Ball Z characters, I think, should be in there. Because you may be surprised, because Dragon Ball Z feels like it probably has the most characters in this. But I think there also are some Dragon Ball Z characters that they missed out on. And I'll do that in the next video. So make sure to like and subscribe for that. And let me know if there's any Dragon Ball characters you think should be in this game. Because I listed like 30 of them. And I think you could still go for more. I think the original Dragon Ball is good enough. It could get its own fighting game and have a great roster. And it has its own games, like Dragon Ball Origins, Dragon Ball, what is it? The King Piccolo fight, whatever it's called. It has that Wii game. It has a big enough roster that it could definitely do that. And it could definitely get more than like the 30 I listed. So make sure to comment what you think. And I'll make sure to read them and reply. And thanks for listening.